Have you ever thought about purchasing a pair of kitchen mittens? Because if you haven't, you probably should. And if you haven't already seen it, you should go watch It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. Anyways, hello everybody, I'm not a corporate shill. This is That Manga Dude, and today we are doing the FVI first volume impressions for April. If you don't know what the FVI is, that is where I read and I review a couple of first volumes or one-shots, and I give you basically a full review versus my reading logs where I kind of give you like a little tidbit. This one I go into characters, I go into the story, I go into the art, and I go more into detail, and then I rank them by how much I like them from least favorite to favorite. Usually that part is a little scatterbrained, so just be prepared for that if you've never consumed an FVI, or if you've never watched one of my FVIs before. Anyways, we got 3 fantastic volumes we're going to talk about today. Definitely very different from one another, which I think is going to be the funniest part about it. But let's get right into it. Let's get started. Let's go. Alrighty, here we go into the first volume. So first published by Bisatsu Margaret, or Bisatsu? I think that's how you pronounce it. First published in Bisatsu Margaret in 2019, and produced here by 7 Seas in 2023 of April. We have ourselves. The first volume is Cinderella Closet by Wakana Yanai. So to get some information out there right quick, we have translation by Faye Cozy, adaptations by Emlyn Hall, lettering is by Elena Pizarro, cover and logo design by H. Chi, and proofreader is Krista Grandy. So let's go over this first cover and first back cover and spine. Overall, this is a really cute one. I really enjoy it. It shows off the 3 main characters, or basically the 3 characters we're going to be looking at for most of the first volume and probably most of the series. Yeah, overall, I just really like the pink they used, and I like just the overall visuals as well. I do think my only little gripe about it is that I think that the characters kind of have like a dead stare to them, except for the main character. I don't know if that was intended or if that just kind of happens to be what happened. But yeah, it's just a little weird. Not my cup of tea per se for that kind of stuff. But overall, the art is really nice for this front cover, back cover, and spine. So let's get into the characters. I'm going to be talking about all 3 of them that are on the front cover. So let's get into the first one, our main character, Fukunaga Haruka. So she's the female lead. She's very dedicated to work in school. Tends to sell herself short a lot. Usually like self-deprecating in a way, but like not in like the way that most people would expect, like jokingly or anything. Kind of just like underhanded comments or just like under her breath kind of thing. Really doesn't think that she's as beautiful or as pretty as a lot of the characters around her think she is. So I like her character growth a lot. We get a lot of it throughout this first volume specifically. So I'm really excited to see where her character decides to go in the rest of the series, because I think it's at least 6 volumes. I don't know how long the series is currently, but I did look it up, and it's at least 6 volumes. So there's going to be a lot of information, a lot of hopefully growth for these characters, specifically with our main character Haruka, because she's pretty cool. Next up, we're going to talk about Kurotaki. So that's going to be this guy over here. He's the main love interest of Haruka. He's a co-worker at the restaurant that she works at. Seems to be a playboy for the most part, and like, at least in the fact that like a lot of girls are like fawning over him, excuse me. Yeah, because he's just like a little pretty boy. They seem to be setting up in the story that like he's seems to be like kind of devious maybe in a way, or maybe that's just like how some of the characters perceive him to be. But for the most part, he seems like a very kind person. He is a little bit forgetful though, which creates a kind of a tension moment within the series. But overall, seems like a pretty okay guy, from what I can tell. And last but not least, we're going to talk about Hikaru. So Hikaru over here, person that Haruka runs into, which I'll be talking about in the story. But basically, they're a fashionista. They're training to become a beautician, and that's how Haruka ends up getting back into like makeup and becoming pretty and stuff like that, and beautifying herself for herself and for other reasons, which we'll get into with the story as well. But overall, they're a great character. I like them a lot. And they have a very interesting, not plot twist, but reveal within this first volume. So, yeah, just look out for that because it's pretty cool. Honestly, there's a lot of good stuff, especially with the story. So let's get into the story real quick. So, story basically revolves around her, Haruka. She is a straightforward, out of the country, out of the boondocks into Tokyo, thinking her life's gonna go like completely perfect. Everything's gonna run well. Everything's gonna run great. She's gonna go to college. She's gonna find a man, and she's gonna find the man of her dreams, get married, la-di-di. You know, the classic Classic story. But life is definitely not what it seems. She ends up working at a chicken restaurant alongside Kurotaki, like I mentioned before. And yeah, most of her life is literally just school, work, sleep, repeat. School, work, sleep, repeat. So it's like kind of this perpetual loop that she's stuck in. But she ends up meeting this person here, Hikaru, and their little like run-in, I guess, basically gets Haruka to want to dress up for her special little occasion, because earlier in like the volume, Kurotaki basically asked her on a date in a way, aka like says like we should go out for your birthday and stuff like that. So yeah, so that's how the story basically starts off, where Haruka is getting ready for a date with Kurotaki, meets up with runs into Hikaru, and then eventually sees Hikaru again and asks for help in order to use makeup or become more fashionable. It's a lot, and I think a lot of the character interactions are really great. I think there's a really beautiful moment towards the end of this volume, which I'm not going to spoil because it has something to do with Hikaru's character, but just know that, like, yeah, Hikaru's character is very complex and has a lot of, like, issues that they're dealing with, but overall, awesome story. I like it a lot. I think they take a very simple premise and then make it interesting, especially with how the characters interact with one another, and I don't know, it's just like I said, a lot of this is very common for a country person goes to Tokyo and finds out not everything is not how it's supposed to be. Skip and Loafer has kind of the same plot, sort of, or like same premise, not necessarily the same plot, if that makes sense. But overall, I think Cinderella Closet does it really well, and yeah, I think the story is, I think, one of the highlights of this specific first volume. Now, let's get into the art. So the art I'm kind of mixed on. I do think that the art is solid. I think there are a lot of parts that I do very much enjoy with it. There's a lot of really nice like interactions, a lot of like really fun facial expressions, and the character designs are really good too. I do think that like it relies a lot on close-ups or like kind of like busts, and it's gonna be funny because I'm gonna talk about that with one of the other series in this FVI, but this one, yeah, it just seems like there's a lot of like, oh, we just see the character's face. We just see the character's face. And there's a lot of interesting and like not so great posing, in my opinion, that we get to see in this first volume. But I think this is kind of growing pains. I think it's we're gonna see better as we move on into the story. But yeah, overall the art's solid. Not my favorite of the bunch of these three, but overall it's still pretty good. So would I suggest picking this up if you like shoujo series, if you like kind of like coming of age in a way, like, I don't know, female-led stories. This is a pretty good one. Overall, I enjoyed it. I thought it was fun. I'm definitely going to be picking up the second volume. So, yeah, take that as you will. Give it a shot, especially if you like romance stories with an interesting twist here and there. So, yeah, overall, very good. Okay, hopping into the next volume here. So, this one, originally published in 2020, coming to us from Viz in 2023, and as of the time of recording, I actually got it early, so that was more luck. I didn't actually get it sent to me, so maybe someday that will become a thing. However, this volume is Boy's Abyss by Ryu Minami. Wow. Well, let's get into it real quick before I even start talking about anything. So, translation is by John Wary, touch-up and lettering is by Stephanie Dutro, cover and interior design is by Cam Lee, and editor is Annette Roman. Yeah, so let's talk about this cover. Really, really gorgeous cover. I think it's just absolutely gorgeous. This is so beautiful. And I really love, like, I think it's supposed to be a beta fish or a Japanese fighting fish that's here. I'm not 100% sure. I think they mentioned something about it in the first couple of chapters. But, yeah, overall, this is a really, really pretty cover. And it's a really nice print in general. I really like the mat that they used for this one. So overall, wow, good stuff. Now, let's get into the characters. I'm only going to talk about two of them, but there is like quite a few characters that we do meet. But I think only two that truly matter, that matter for the main character. So, first character, we're not talking about the character on the cover. We're actually going to be talking about Reiji. Or Reiji, I don't know how to pronounce. I think it's Reiji. He is the main character. Definitely has a lot of issues going on with life. Seems to be very out of touch as well, where like he's just kind of stuck in this little spiral of having to take care of his family while also wanting to leave where he lives. He kind of lives in a out there city, not nowhere near Tokyo, just kind of out there, very small. So he feels like he's stuck, and like a lot of his character is driven because of these things. And yeah, I think it's overall he's done really well. You sympathize with him a lot because like he just has a lot of issues, especially for a high schooler to be dealing with. So overall, I really like his character, and I'm genuinely interested to see where his character goes because the first volume ends on a wild cliffhanger. So really interested to see where this goes. But next character we're going to talk about is the cover on the cover. So this is Nagi. She is the female lead. She's a singer in a J-pop group called Acrylic. And lo and behold, Reiji and her friend, his friend Chako, absolutely love her. They think she's amazing. She's gorgeous. She has a beautiful voice. She's like an upcoming star in all of this. So yeah, overall, she's a very complicated character. There's clearly a lot of issues that she's dealing with, but she tends to hide, especially throughout this first volume, and to Reiji himself. But overall, yeah, she's just a very complex character, and we get a lot of information about her, especially within the first volume, which is genuinely surprising. So, yeah, really excited to see where she goes as well, considering, like I said, what happens at the end of this first volume. Now, let's get into the story. There is a very kind of very simple story at first, or at least at face value. So basically, like I mentioned, Reiji is dealing with a lot. His grandmother has dementia. His mother's always like taking care of her, but like doesn't want to take care of her sons. His brother is a shut-in. He doesn't really do anything. From what we could tell, especially within the first volume, he's just yelling and saying, "I want my fried chicken" or whatever. So overall, he's dealing with a lot of problems at home, and then as well as at school, where he's like really wants to go to Tokyo, really wants to leave this world, but he feels like he's obligated to stay back or stay behind because of all these issues that are surrounding his family, and just overall just feels like he's trapped. So yeah, it's really awful. It's a really awful time for him, especially because he's also dealing with a bully as well, who his dad, or the bully's dad, has now like hired the main character Reiji to join his construction company. Like wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Not really, but yeah. So there's a lot of problems and issues going on. His character, he feels like he has nothing left really. He's just kind of going with the flow at this point. But yeah, he seems like really dead inside until he meets Nagi, who is the girl that he like loves in this, like I said, this J-pop group called Acrylic. And for some reason, she's working at the convenience store in his city or in his town, and he's really confused. So they start a very interesting relationship. I will put that bluntly, a very interesting relationship. So a whole lot of crazy stuff happens, especially within this first volume. The story is like I said, it seems really simple at first, but there's so much going on, where a lot of a web of lies and kind of confusion and mystery are all kind of tying together into this like terribly horrible knot. But yeah, it's very graphic, just as a heads up. There are I would say there's a lot of triggering moments, especially within this first volume. So I'm going to throw up the trigger moments or trigger warnings up here right about now. So please keep that in mind if you are easily triggered by any of the things that are written up above here or down here or wherever. It's going to be on screen. I would say please stay away from this. This is very much just a very dark series. It gives me, like in terms of like how dark it is, say Poon Poon levels of dark. So if you've ever read Oyasumi Poon Poon, it's on that same level of like, oh snap, that's a lot. So yeah, just kind of the same idea, but yeah, it's hauntingly beautiful. It's very eerie, very creepy in a way, and very interesting. It keeps you, I don't know, I was like completely sucked into this. Like it took me like maybe like a half an hour to read, which is usually not the case for some of these like bigger volumes. But yeah, I like blasted through this, and it was a very, very good read. But yeah, there's just a lot of very dark moments and just whew. I don't know. Overall, it's just a lot. But yeah, a great, great, great story. And now let's get into the art, which, if you couldn't tell by what I said about the cover, the art is absolutely gorgeous. And this is actually the series that, like I mentioned, has a lot of characters, or a lot of like just like the like front-facing characters speaking to us, or speaking to the other characters. But yeah, I think it's used in a way in this one for the story specifically, where it feels like we are kind of like bystanders in this, and we should be like responding to these characters as they're speaking to one another, because the character's looking directly at us. I would open this, but there is a lot of nudity in this, so I don't want to accidentally flip to a page where I have to blur it, so just take my word for it. But Overall, this was a fantastic first volume. I was genuinely surprised, and I could see why there's so much hype behind it, why everybody was so excited about it, because, yeah, wow, this was crazy. Very, very good first volume. Really, really excited for the second volume. Definitely, like I said, this is a must pick up for people who love a drama, a mystery, and just overall, just a somber story. But like I said, if you are easily triggered by any of the things that I mentioned previously, I would say stay away from this because there is a lot, and sometimes it's pretty hard to read. So just keep that in mind if you're going to go and pick up Boys Abyss. And now it's time for the oldest volume I'm going to talk about in the first volume impressions for this one. I don't know about in general, I don't think so. No, not technically, but originally published in 2007 and officially getting its English debut here in print in April of 2023. It is Tista by Tatsuya Endo. So, let me give you some information real quick. Like I always do, translation is by Misa, Japanese Ammo, touch-up and lettering by Chi Wang, designer is Jimmy Pressler, and editor is Mike Montesa. So, if you don't recognize the name Tatsuya Endo, that is the same mangaka behind the super popular series Spy Family, one of my favorites. It's currently publishing right now, for good reason. But this is his, I think, first published series. I don't take my word for that, but it's his first, like, main series. Definitely interesting to see it come out so late, but also understandable just because of how popular Spy Family is. So, not surprised it's coming out now. Now, let's talk about the cover real quick. So this is a really flipping cool cover. I love this a lot. I love the color. I love the gradients, or like the color that they use with the green and red, which is a really nice complementary color combo. And then just a really solid like title cover, like page. I don't know. Has a really nice spine as well. And then, yeah, the back is whatever. But overall, this spine is super. This spine and this front cover are so flipping cool. So, let's go into the characters. So there's only two I'm going to talk about because there's only two that really matter, I would say. And there are some that I would argue that maybe you could talk about, but only two main characters here. We got Tista Lone, or Tista Lone. I don't know how you're supposed to pronounce it. But yeah, so she is the young woman who lives a double life. Like, this cover is basically showing you as an assassin, but also as a college student. She is very shy when she's speaking to others, but it seems more like she's doing that as a front in order to keep people away from her because she's an assassin, so she doesn't want to have any kind of connections, because if she does, she may lose those people because of her connections to assassins and various other things. But overall, she's just a very interesting character. She goes through a lot in the first volume, and you learn a lot about her as well. Especially like what's going on with her eye, where she like appears to have this thing where like she can like focus using like crosshairs through her eye, which they explain later in the series, or later in the first volume. But yeah, overall, she's an interesting character. I'm excited to see where she goes because, yeah, there doesn't seem to have been a lot of character growth. I'll give her that. It seems more like now that she created this, like, or had this brief friendship / brief introduction to another character who I'm going to talk about, it's causing her to have issues with her assassination lifestyle / background. So, other character we're going to talk about, his name's Artie Drawer, which is like some Phoenix Wright level of like tomfoolery in terms of naming a character. But Artie Drawer is a artist in the college that Tista attends. Yeah, he's looked down upon by like a lot of his superiors. They're like, oh, just give up on art, you suck, whatever. So he's very tenacious, very ambitious, really cares about becoming a better artist, especially throughout the first volume. Overall, he gets an interest into Tista because like she shows up at the school, and he's like, oh, blah, blah, like, let me draw you and stuff like that. So they end up hitting it off in a way, and like she gets like they get like a connection, and then after something goes completely awry, I'm going into the story at this point really, but after something goes completely awry, Tista kind of goes into hiding and drops out of the school so that Artie can't find her. Like I said, it's mostly because of her assassin background. So, yeah. So we have like two kind of like plot lines that we're following, with just Tista's like ideals. Like, what does she want to do? Like, does she actually want to become the teacher that she says that she's going to become. Like, she's in the education department, so she's trying to become a teacher, but how could she become a teacher if she's always killing people? So it's her character struggling with that, balancing the lifestyle that she was kind of forced into and then the lifestyle that she wants to create. And that's where Artie Drawer is kind of like the crux in a way. He's like the interesting like linchpin that's like, hey, you should go follow your dreams and don't do this assassin stuff anymore. But of course, it's a lot more complicated than that. Overall, story's pretty cool. It goes very fast. I'll say that. There's like I said, all the things I just discussed happen in the first volume, which is kind of a lot for a first volume. But overall, I think it was fine. I did enjoy it enough that like I kind of looked past it. But I will say, yeah, it is very fast paced, almost to a fault. So overall, pretty good story, pretty good characters. And then the art is where it stands out, as always. Tatsuya Endo has fantastic art, even back in 2007, before he started on Spy Family. This was a lot of really good shots. Overall, a lot of great character designs. I think the character designs are super cool, super unique. Across the board, we have like short characters, tall characters, bigger characters, skinnier characters, characters of different races. I don't know, overall, it's just really cool. A lot of really nice environments as well, as that's to be expected, to be honest. And overall, just really good paneling, really good expressions. Yeah, I think the art is the best part of this. It's very, very good. But what do I give it for my final rating? I'd say give this a shot, especially if you like Tatsuya Endo. And if you like a battle shonen, I'd say give it a shot. Literally. Because she's an assassin and she uses the sniper rifle. I'm very not funny. Anyways, yeah, this was a pretty good first volume. Definitely not what I was expecting, to be honest. But yeah, if you were expecting like a comedy series, kind of like Spy Family, yeah, this is definitely not it. But it is a very fun first volume for a battle shonen. So give it a shot if you like that kind of stuff. Okay, let's rate these first three, or these three, why did I say first? These three volumes from my favorite to least favorite. So, least favorite is going to be Cinderella Closet, and that's only because, like, it's not my typical cup of tea. Like, it was very entertaining, but I do find that I like these two a little bit more. It's not a bad volume. Like I mentioned, I actually do very much like it. But overall, yeah, it just was my least favorite. And then coming up next, I think you can kind of tell which one's going to be top. But Tista's going to go number 2, and Boys Abyss is number 1. Boys Abyss was inarguably the best one that I read this month. It was fantastic. It was so dark. It was so creepy in a way. It's very thought-provoking. There's just so much that went into this first volume, and like, definitely was like, oh gosh. But I read it so fast, so I was definitely hooked. So overall, fantastic first volume, and this is going to be my favorite volume of April 2023. So, did you all read these volumes at all? Please let me know in the comments below. I'd love to know what you guys thought about these, because these are all very different, clearly, but they're all very good in their own rights. So please let me know how you felt about them, if you have read them, and if you haven't, let me know if you're going to go pick them up because you checked out this video. And you know what to do. You can like, you can comment, and you can subscribe, because all those super things are super cool. Inching very much closer to 1,000 subscribers, which is absolutely crazy. So thank you all for the support. It really means a lot. And if you decided not to do any of those things, then, well, you watched this video, so thanks. I got a view out of it. But that's going to be it for this FVI, and I will see you in the next video. Bye-bye!